If you've been thinking about wanting to start a podcast but not sure where to get started, I have some news for you. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast as well with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hi gang, Donna here. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Lynne Eichenbaum. She is the inventor of My Garden Sleeves. But we're not only going to explore My Garden Sleeves and her writing career of the Remote Control Adventures, we are also going to talk a little bit about her journey on The View. She was an associate director, but she didn't start there. In fact, she started at the very beginning when The View first started. So she takes us on this journey. So I hope you enjoy the show today. Hi, Lynne. How are you doing today?
Hi, Donna. Great. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I see you have your gloves behind you, but we're not going to talk about the gloves initially. We are going to talk about something much bigger, which was your professional career as associate director on The View. When did you do that?
Okay, so I started, I guess, about 1997 when the show began. I was originally at Lifetime Television with an amazing director named Mark Gentile. And one day he pulled me aside, and this was my first TV gig. And he said, Lynne, I've been asked to, don't tell anyone, but I've been asked to direct a live television show on ABC called The View. It's going to be 5 women sitting around a table talking. And I want to know if you'll be my booth PA, which just means you'll have to back time a live television show. You cool with that? And I had never done anything live before, but I said, sure, yes, I can do it. Because I figured, just say yes initially, then figure out how to do it afterwards. That's kind of always been my MO. So I did. And we went over there and pretty much started the show up from scratch, which was pretty amazing. It was a great experience.
That's kind of how the acting game works. When I started out in acting, they were like, okay, well, did you ever do this? Okay, then you can say that you're how to do it. You put it on your resume now. It's like, I rode a horse once. Doesn't matter. You did it. Goes on the resume. Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. So that's pretty much what I did. So I just, they sent me to Good Morning America so that I could learn how to back time. It was so overwhelming because it was like 3:45 in the morning. I had to get there. They had all these computer programs and everything because GMA is very, it's a lot of hard hit times and everything. So that was kind of, I leapt off the diving board into that and learned from there. And just started back timing and had an amazing job. And then I wound up associate directing on the show as sort of the backup associate director and the backup stage manager.
And how many years did you stay doing that?
I stayed on The View for about 3.5 years. And, everybody was asking me when I left, why are you leaving? It's The View. You meet all these famous people and it's so much fun and everything. But I think in any career, if there isn't upward mobility, you kind of get stagnant, even though it was an incredible show with incredible people. And I loved it. I mean, it's the one thing in my life the one job I've ever had that I look back on with such fondness. I have a lot of those people now still on Facebook and we still connect with them. But the full-time stage managers and the full-time associate directors weren't going anywhere. Yeah. So I sort of felt like it was my time to leave. And I hooked up with another director who had started on the show, an associate director on the show named Andy Barsh, and he went over to to a different network to do Soap Center and different shows. So I wound up piggybacking on him and wound up associate directing for him. So I did actually wind up leaving The View after 3.5 years, but gosh, it was just an incredible experience.
So I can imagine, working in television, that I always joke around that it was the best summer job I had. Because we did six weeks of shooting, the episodes. And while I was working, because line producer and everything else I was doing, it was like 24/7 on. You have to make sure everything's taken.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, when I was all said and done, I was just kind of like, wow, I really had a lot of fun. And the funny thing is, the last day of shooting, everybody was going camping. I'm like, I'm really tired. I don't feel good. Like 2 days later, I had like a fever of 102.
Yep.
And I'm like on the couch, just passed out and waking up, watching TV, eating, and then going back to sleep because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But when you're doing it, it's just like this energetic push.
Oh gosh, it's a total adrenaline rush. And I remember actually a really funny story. I was in the control room and I'm sitting next to the associate director, and Mark, the director, is standing up there, and we're counting down to air. And I was on the edge of my seat, and I always got so revved up.
Mhm.
As soon as he hit, 3, 2, 1, I wound up falling off my chair. My chair flipped over in the control room, and I was flat on my back on the floor.
Sorry.
And here he's taking camera 2, taking camera 3, taking camera 1, and I am literally on my back on the floor. All the producers in the back are looking at me, and Mark has got this weird look on his face, and I'm like, it's all good. It's all good. I will never forget that.
I imagine not.
Oh, it was funny.
So when you were on, Barbara Walters was on.
Yes.
Who else?
Let's see. It was Barbara. It was Meredith Vieira, who I have to tell you is one of the nicest women you will ever meet. She is incredible, so genuinely sweet. Star Jones, Joy Behar, and Debbie Matenopoulos. It was the very, very beginning, and a big learning curve for everybody because no one had really done a show like this before. Now, since then, it was that was the model for a lot of shows that are on, like The Talk, The Chew, so many of them. But The View was really pioneering, I think, with regard to the 5-woman panel concept. And then Mark was such an incredibly creative director. He had a monitor behind Meredith, and he would put the hot topics in the monitor over her shoulder, and just everything he did, the music videos he did, everything. It was just also pioneering, I think, in women's daytime television, that he really paved the way for a lot of these shows that are on the air now.
Yeah, I mean, The View really did launch several things. It's kind of like, the MTV show. Now I can't think of it. Of course, now I just totally blew my mind, but it launched reality TV,
Yeah.
You know what show I'm talking about. And I can't remember, believe I cannot remember.
I try to remember, I can't.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about though. Where they all basically lived in a house, and it's not Big Brother, but that launched. I mean, there's Big Brother now. That's the same kind of situation for the most part.
Right, exactly. And the difference now, I think, with The View is that a lot of these shows have gotten a lot more political since Meredith left and Debbie left and Lisa Ling left. It has gotten more political. So, the day of the fashion show and the Tupperware segments and everything is kind of gone, I guess, in women's daytime television. And it definitely is more like current topics and hot topics. And I guess that's just kind of the climate of the world that we live in right now.
Well, I mean, they still do. I mean, I haven't watched in about a year, but they still do the deal of the day stuff.
Yeah.
So
that is true.
Is Joy as sassy as she appears?
Oh, yeah. Always. She always had a writer who would sort of help her. I don't want to say help her, but, he would sort of write some of her lines and everything. But she was always just sharp as a tack and, very witty. Everyone started out, like I said, not quite as political. I think also because Barbara was there to sort of keep everybody in check. But when Barbara retired and Bill Getty left the show, I think everybody kind of was like, we can let our claws out now and we can really show our true colors. Which they did.
Barbara always seemed to be kind of a class act. I mean, she seems to be a lady boss, dare I say.
Oh, gosh. Oh, yeah. She radiates strength and power, but she's a tiny woman. I mean, she's very small physically. And, but as far as her presence goes, if she was on stage, everybody pretty much deferred to Barbara because she is such an icon in television. I mean, she really is pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up watching her. And,
absolutely.
I wouldn't imagine her to be a small lady. I would imagine her to be,
tiny.
Yeah. Powerhouse.
I know. I remember once, I have another story too about Barbara. So I was the backup stage manager. And I remember it was the last segment and I had to count down 5, 4, 3, just my fingers, and then cue her to finish the show. And I was so revved up, I counted down, but I forgot to cue her.
Oh.
Oh, so I guess someone in her ear told her to finish the show, and she cued herself, and then at the end she came up to me and she said, "I don't believe I got a cue from you." I was like, "Barbara, I'm so sorry. I'm a backup. It's my first day. I'm really sorry." But yeah, I definitely had a lot of memories on that show.
I'm sure.
Oh my gosh.
Did you have any nightmares at home at night after that?
Oh gosh, that night I was like kicking myself, I was hitting my forehead. I'm like, I didn't cue Barbara Walters. Oh my God.
It sounds like the title of autobiography. The day I didn't cue Barbara.
The day I didn't cue Barbara Walters, and I lived to tell the tale, and they did invite me back the next day.
You didn't lose your job. It's an amazing thing.
Exactly.
The real world. That's what we were trying to think of.
The real world. Okay.
So it was still bothering me. So I looked it up, but yeah,
awesome.
The real world. But I mean, yeah, if you look at the concept of The View and you look at what reality TV is, you can see where its infancy started with these other programs.
Yes.
And
definitely.
Did you ever watch a show called The Unreal?
No, that I haven't.
It's actually about the people that run the reality shows. Okay. It's a whole backstage thing with the director and everything else. That's why I asked if you watched it. And also The Newsroom. The Newsroom was another incredible show with, granted, it was politically leaning at times, but still just the whole way it worked, putting together a live show. There must be a high amount of stress for you. Is that one of the reasons why you left too? Or
yeah,
did you just...
Well, I have to say it was a lot of stress, but and I had a lot of anxiety, which I didn't realize until after I had my third son, and I had an anxiety issue that was sort of triggered with the pregnancy. But in looking back, I was always a very high anxiety person, and we always call it type A, but high anxiety sort of made me more hyper conscious of doing my job and doing it perfectly. I sort of had a fear of failure. I had a fear of getting fired. And Mark was a demanding boss. He was amazing, but he was definitely a demanding boss. And if I made a mistake, he would sort of humiliate me in front of the whole control room. Yeah. So I learned it was devastating at first when I was sort of a young and a novice at this, but I sort of learned, let's just say, not to make mistakes and to push myself to be as perfect as I could in the job that I had. So I have to say, it was a great experience, but yes, it was very, very high anxiety. And, I was in my 20s when I did it, and I could definitely handle the pressure, but leaving and, doing the other careers, which we'll get to, that I wound up taking in my life, definitely the anxiety level and the pressure level was a lot lower. Because you had hard hit times. We had to hit a commercial at 1:28:30, and the ladies were talking, and we had to cut them off, we had to cue them, we had to wrap them up. And then if a segment wound up going, say, 1:37 over in the commercial break, I had to reshuffle the time in a 3-minute and 20-second commercial break to try to take 1:37 out of the back end of the show so that we'd get off the air on time. So in that case, I have to say my math skills got really good, but it was very, very stressful because I would run to the back of the room and talk to the line producers and the supervising producers, and we would figure out on the fly where to pull the time from. Yeah. So it is a crazy stressful career. Absolutely. If anybody, tape television is stressful. Live television, it takes it to a totally different plane.
For me, I used to do radio. So we had those hard breaks. There was some that you could finagle around, but top of the hour, you better be hitting the top of the hour mark. And you had to, this was before, when I was a radio DJ, we got to program the songs we played, at least at one station. The other station was all computerized. So then you still had to monitor everything, but it was all preset. Back to math skills. When you used to have to program it on a sheet, you had to sit there and lay out your time of the song and make sure you weren't playing something that was going to cut into it. The second person that came, or the person that came in after me when they started, this guy, we had the set thing that per the FCC, just like in TV, you have to have those commercial breaks. You have to have the station identification at the top of the hour. You have to do
Mhm.
all these things. This guy, his first day, he didn't do any of that. I'm supposed to be going on at 4 a.m. So I'm at 3 o'clock. I'm getting ready and I'm listening, and he hasn't done anything. And I'm just like, this is violation after violation after violation, not to mention ad revenue you're losing. And
Yep.
it just, so people don't really realize all the little pieces I think that go into either radio or television, because
Yes.
it is just these little things that you have to, while you're calling up saying, I want to hear that song, it can't be played because for whatever, especially now, because it's computerized.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
um, so did you know that you had an anxiety? I mean, you said you didn't recognize you had an anxiety issue. And I
Mhm.
get that because I never thought I had anxiety issues. Until I got older, then I started realizing, yeah, I do have it. Was there something, were you as a child being told that you were, you have to be better, you have to do this, you have to be put on a certain level, you have to excel? Were you under a lot of pressure as a kid or a
I think
teen?
no, I think as a kid, I put pressure on myself
Okay.
because I had, and I love my father. He's still, he's still around. He's great. He was uh, a very typical father in the previous generation. He came home at 6 o'clock and we had dinner at 6, and he talked about work, and then he went downstairs and didn't really engage us very much. And I always wanted to please him. So I pushed myself to get straight A's because I figured that would be a way I could get my dad's approval. Or if I excelled, I have to remember my first job out of college, I wound up working at Viacom Television in human resources. And he was so thrilled that I was in human resources because it was something that, because he was in business, he was a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
something he could understand, that he actually visited me in New York City at Viacom's headquarters. And I was so overjoyed, but and it was amazing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back to the anxiety, so yeah, I think I put a lot of pressure on myself. I was very competitive with my sister, and we both got straight A's. If she got, she's 2 years older than me. If she got the lead in the school play, I had to get the lead in the school play after she left. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just a lot of competition between the two of us, and I think really it was for dad's approval and to make sure that we felt that we were worthy and worth something. And that was just my self-worth was always just kind of excelling. And I think a lot of that really did have to do with the anxiety.
Well, and that makes sense too about being in the TV industry, especially live TV. You are being forced to produce. You are on those.
Oh,
It's all high
absolutely.
anxiety, and you are running. You are running hard.
Yeah, I think it was the right career for me. I always loved television. When I was a kid, my sister would be the bookworm. She would be reading until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but I would be Saturday mornings. Cartoons weren't 24/7 like they are now. They
Yeah,
were Saturday mornings from 9 to noon
yeah,
until the 12 o'clock news took over. So at 9 o'clock, I was down there with my bowl of cereal and I was,
yeah.
watching TV. I loved commercials. I used to sing jingles. I would actually sometimes leave the show if I wanted to go get a snack and come back for the commercials so I could watch them. So yeah, I always loved TV at a young age, and I dreamt about being an actress also. But since I tend to put my heart and soul into everything I do, when I gave it a little stint as an actress, in order to fund it, I was waiting tables. So waiting tables became my full-time job because I was like, oh, well, I'm waiting tables. I have to do this 40 hours a week. So I have to
Yeah.
do something. So I realized that wasn't the path I wanted to take. And TV just fit with me, with my anxiety, with my type A, with everything. And I loved it. I mean, I feel like I really fell in with a crowd that got me and I got them. And it was just an amazing family.
I was gonna say, when you brought up the Saturday morning cartoons, do you remember when they used to, like, the Friday before the new season of cartoons started, they would have like one little half-hour Friday show of the cartoons, showing you what cartoons were coming up this season. Do you
And they
remember
were
this?
so good. I do. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And I just, it was so good because it was our time to sit
Hmm.
there. We had one TV in the house,
Yeah.
and dad got to choose which programs he watched. But Saturday morning, it was my sister, myself, and my brother. And we would sit, the three of us, like three little musketeers on the couch, eating our cereal, watching our shows.
And I mean, when you think about it, it's like back then, you couldn't pause it. You could
Oh, not at all.
you couldn't rewatch it. Once you saw it, that was it. And now it's like, oh, I can go watch it on the computer after I missed it or whatever. It's, there's no, as much as an instant gratification society we've turned into,
Yeah.
we've also turned into, well, I can watch it later.
Oh, absolutely. Kids don't get that. Kids these
Mm-mm.
days also don't understand that. Everything is at the touch of a button or the flip of a switch. And we were under schedules when
Mm-hmm.
we were, when we were growing up because things didn't wait.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I've talked to a couple of people about, do you remember layaway? And they're like, oh yeah. Yeah, layaway was a great thing.
And rain checks.
Yes. Well, they still have rain checks and you still have layaway at Christmas, but it was all the time. And it was just like, wow,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
All the time. All the time.
Yeah.
So funny.
So you left The View, you went on to do another production. And then did you just finally just say, okay, I've had enough in the TV world?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. So I actually met my future husband in New York City when I was working on a show called Iyanla, which was with a woman named Iyanla Van Zant, who is an inspirational speaker. You know Iyanla. Okay. So Barbara Walters and Bill Getty started a show with Iyanla as the host. They, sort of while she was still on The View, they did the side project. And I was working on that show for a number of months with Andy Barsh, who was the director I had gone to work with after I left The View. And during that time, I met my future husband, and he was living down in North Carolina at the time. I met him because his parents were in the city. His mom was working in his dad's office, and his dad happened to be my eye doctor. So sort of,
Fate.
Fate. It was fate. What can I say? So I made the decision, and it was a hard decision, but I made the decision to leave my TV career behind and to move to North Carolina so that we could start a life together. And that was a really, really hard decision. And I have to admit that it was hard for me to watch TV when I left and I moved down there. There was such an emptiness, I guess, in my heart because that's all I had ever done. Mm-hmm. But I guess I taught myself over the years subsequent to that, just because it's something you've only ever done doesn't mean it's the only thing you can do. Yeah. And I've had to reinvent myself so many times from that point on. But I mean, it was completely worth it because, we have 3 beautiful children and gosh, we've moved around so many times since then. But the initial parting was really, really hard. And I remember when we were in North Carolina and we were just about to move out to California, Andy Barsh called me, who was, the director I had been working on in Iyanla. He said, there's this new show that I'm going to be directing with John Walsh called The John Walsh Show. And would you like to come up and be my associate director? And I had to turn it down because we were moving out to California. And that was gut wrenching. That was like taking the dagger and just stabbing it through my heart. But that's really the only thing I regret. The only thing I regret is not coming up to work on that show with him, because I think that would have been a really cool last hurrah in TV for me. Mm-hmm. But instead, I wound up taking a job down at North Carolina Public Television. And I taught myself camera work and audio work, and I was actually working on the floor of the state legislature down there, which is very interesting. So I learned all about politics and state laws and what goes into making decisions down there politically, and it was really, really interesting. And then we actually hightailed it out to California when my husband got transferred out there. He got a job with Alza Pharmaceuticals, which was a subsidiary of Johnson & Johnson at the time. And I went on to produce a show in public access television with a woman I met out there, and it was a lot of fun.
So are you doing anything now, or are you just, that part of your life is now closed?
That part of my life is closed. Okay. Now that, I moved to New Jersey about 15 years ago. And I guess you would call me a momtrepreneur now. Okay. I love to garden. And New Jersey is called the Garden State for a reason. I mean, the climate down here is incredible for growing Jersey tomatoes, everything, zucchini, squash, you name it, we can grow it down here. And let's see. So I am also very susceptible to poison ivy, to ticks, everything. My arms get very scratched up, cut up, everything when I'm outside in my garden. And one day I was getting out of my car and I saw 3 weeds growing by the side of the road, or sorry, by the side of my driveway. So I picked them. And the next day I had poison ivy all up and down my arms.
Wow.
And I said, this is ridiculous. I think I need to look online and see if I can find a glove sleeve combination, because I always wear sleeveless in the summer when I garden. I think a lot of us do.
Hmm.
And I said, I just need a sleeve. I need like a glove attached to a sleeve that I can just throw in the laundry. So I went on Amazon, I went all over the internet. I couldn't find one. So I decided to just sew myself one, because I love to sew. That's another hobby
Hmm.
that I have. So I sewed myself a prototype. And they were so cool. It was like a blouson sleeve with elastic over the bicep,
Nice.
attached to a nitrile glove. And I said, what the heck? I think I'm just going to start a company. So I did. And I called them my garden sleeves, or they're called garden sleeves. And I started a company, and I've been in business for about 3 years now. And it is so great and so much fun. So that's sort
Nice.
of what I segued to.
Nice. I mean, it's perfect. But I mean, I understand, because I was outside, I had cut the grass, and there was something, my arm, I touched it against something. And a half hour later, I live on Zyrtec. I have the worst allergies,
Oh,
period.
no.
But so I live on Zyrtec. So for anything that would give me a reaction, I'm allergic to something. So I touch something, and it's like I come back inside and I'm looking at my arm and I have this nice red mark. I'm like, what I touch? It
I
went away
know.
about a half hour later, but you're sitting there wanting to itch it and everything else. It goes away eventually because it's all the Zyrtec. But
Right.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah, I just think, starting it really was just a project for me to do, for myself, so that
mhm.
I would, and it looked, to be
It,
honest, I mean, it looked silly. It was
but
just like a
it
glove.
But isn't that the best way things start, is when you do it for yourself, you create something for yourself and then you put it out there. I mean, because even think about it this way, even if you're not allergic, if you're digging in a bag of dirt for your pots, you're ending up digging in, you got your gloves on, and you end up with dirt inside the glove because you've dug your hand in there. So, yeah,
Absolutely. And as far as the ticks go, you can be working and you've got gloves that end at your wrist, and you're working in working in the dirt, working in the garden, and you've got spiders on your arm, you've got ticks on your arm, you've got, say, squash bugs. I had a squash bug riding on my garden sleeve the other day. He was a hitchhiker. He almost came in. Thank goodness he wasn't on my arm, because I probably would have freaked out.
yeah,
But yeah, so it's just, it's, necessity is the mother of all invention, right?
yeah.
And it's interesting because, so anyway, initially called my company NOMBI, which stands for No More Poison Ivy, because I was like, it's a
Mhm.
cool acronym, it's adorable, it's fun, I'll call it NOMBI. But I started about 3 years ago, and I've been taking my gloves to trade shows and to the big flower and garden shows, and people love them. They absolutely love them. But I spent so much time explaining what NOPI meant,
Yeah,
what the acronym was, and everything, that and a very good friend of mine said to me, if your customer doesn't understand what you're selling within the first 10 seconds, then either your message is not good, your name is not good, or something's got to give. So I realized, after getting like my 10th migraine from trying to
yeah, yeah,
explain to, literally
yeah,
trying to explain to everybody what NOMBI meant, I actually changed the name of my product to Garden Sleeves, which makes so much more sense, because it just explains the product. They're not just for poison ivy, they're also for ticks, for mosquitoes, for, you've got wild parsnip now, which is an invasive species that's
yeah.
up in New York, that's like driving people crazy, because you get really terrible rashes on your arms because of that. So I changed everything from nobigloves.com. I changed it to mygardensleeves.com. I changed my Facebook page. So you really have to listen. Like, when you're an entrepreneur, you really have to, just because you come up with an idea doesn't
Mhm.
mean it's like the best idea. It can be molded and it can be shaped like clay. As long as you're willing to listen to what other people suggest, I think you just have to be open.
Yeah. So when is it going to be featured as a deal of the day?
Hope soon. I know I have to call in all my old contacts and be like, you guys have to have me on. So
Send a parent a joy.
exactly. I just have to find out which one of them gardens, because I know a lot of them are city dwellers.
Yeah.
So I have to find out which one of them gardens, and I will definitely try to send it to them. But it's really fun. So I took them to the Philadelphia Flower and Garden Show, the Gloves, this past March, actually this past June, and I have to say, literally single-handedly, I sold like 750 pairs in 9 days.
Wow.
It was remarkable. And gardeners get it. Like, they come up to me and they're like, Lynn, it's like that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, like, why didn't we think of this? Or, wow, I used my husband's old socks and I pulled them over my arm and I cut the toes off. Yours are so much prettier.
Yeah.
So, but definitely it's been a journey. And, I would say to anyone who has an idea, don't give up on it. You definitely have to, if you think it's a really good idea, just believe in yourself and nurture it, and always think that you can succeed. Because if you have that little self-doubt in the back of your mind, I try to instill this in my kids too. I mean, sometimes they think I'm crazy because I've done so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
My friends' kids, my kids' friends say, so what does your mom do? They're like, well, she makes Irish dance headbands and she alters Irish dance dresses, and she has this line of sleeve gardening gloves, and she's written children's books, and she sort of does a little bit of everything. But it's all been just such an incredible, fun journey for me that I don't regret any of it at all.
The only thing I will add is, if they're really serious about inventing, and I hate to tout my own program, but Warren Tuttle, he actually talks about inventing and the problems that you can run across and people taking advantage of young inventors. So if you're curious, not you personally, but somebody that's watching this, about inventing, check that podcast out, because he does give some sound advice, and he's got a good book about inventing. So, not to detract from what you're saying, because I have a career. If you looked at my resume, I've been everything from a lingerie model to a claim supervisor.
Wow.
So, to a TV producer, to a disc jockey, to a writer, to a podcaster, so to a caretaker. I mean, so you just, life is a journey. And while you may not say, oh, well, I have a career of 25 years in a certain industry, it's okay. Be you, do you. But let's go back, because, I was going to go back anyway, but now you brought it up. So you wrote children's books.
I did. So after my husband and I moved back to New Jersey, before I got into, I was gardening, but before I invented my gloves, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I had been a stay-at-home mom for, a number of years. And my two kids at the time, I have three now, but my two kids, Zach and Lana, were 6 and 4. And Zach, my 6-year-old, was a voracious reader. He loved books, but he didn't like scary books. And the book level that he was at was like Harry Potter and Hardy Boys, and they were all just too scary for him. Mm-hmm. He didn't like dark, and, he didn't like things where people were going to get into trouble. He was definitely very, just a good kid.
Yeah.
So we ran out of ideas with books for him to read. So I said, okay, Zach, I have, why not? I'll write you a book series. So one day my kids were, honestly, this is so funny. So my kids were fighting over the remote control in the family room. Like, literally, they were playing tug of war with the remote. I want the show. No, I want this one. I want this one. So they both happen to let go at the same time. I'm in the kitchen. The remote flies through the air, crashes on the floor. The batteries fly out, and the two of them are just stone-faced, looking at each other, mouths agape. Mm-hmm. And I was ready to give them such a tongue lashing and send them to their rooms. And then I had another one of those light bulb moments. I said, what if this book series idea that I have, like, what if I write a book series about two kids who are in the family room fighting over the remote control, and all of a sudden the remote starts glowing, and the character on the TV starts talking to them and telling them that an evil television producer has infiltrated TV land and is using magic to steal show scripts and rewrite the ending so the bad guys win.
Nice.
And then my two kids, who I called Zach and Lana, who are my actual oldest two kids, would use the magic remote control to zoom into TV land. They would go on a quest to find the script with the characters of the show. And once they found the script, they would have to creatively rewrite the ending, setting things back the way they were supposed to be. So there was a fun, adventurous component to the books, but there was also an educational component where they were, creatively rewriting the story. And that's where the idea came from.
Nice. And did they like the books?
Loved them. So my first one was Look Out Wild West. And I self-published all of these. I hired an illustrator for the first 4 books because I had never done anything like this before. I self-published through Amazon. They now use Kindle Direct, but at that time they were using a platform called CreateSpace. Mm-hmm. And they hooked me up with an amazing illustrator named Baird Hoffmeyer, who lived down in North Carolina. He illustrated my first 4 books, and they were amazing. I did author visits around New Jersey and Delaware and Connecticut, and they were great. And then, but hiring an illustrator is expensive. So when I wrote the 5th book, which was Zeedle Trouble, which is all about, get this, a garden, of course, because that's my thing.
Yeah.
I said, I think I'm going to try my hand at illustrating. So I think if you're a creative person, things creatively just kind of come easier to you. I don't know if you've felt this too, but, I feel like sewing kind of comes easy to me.
Yeah.
And writing stories and imagination, that all sort of just came naturally to me. So I started illustrating. I taught myself on Microsoft Paint on my computer, and I illustrated all my subsequent books.
Nice.
So, which is amazing. It was such a great experience. And when I did take my daughter to work day, when my daughter was 5, she actually helped ink some of my things on the computer. So that was really, really cool for her.
So how many books are in the series?
So there are 10 books in the series. That was my goal. I had originally in my head, I had originally said, okay, I'm just going to do 10 books. And it took me probably about 5 years to do that. So I wrote them between 2012 and 2017. And then I started substitute teaching, and it was really great to bring the books into the classrooms when I was substitute teaching in the elementary schools and just share them with the kids, because they were tickled that they were, their substitute teacher was also an author. And and it was very, very cool, both for the kids and for me, to tell them all about my journey as an author and how I self-published. And the books are awesome. So they're called Remote Control Adventures. You can still find them on Amazon, or you can find them through my website, which is remotecontroladventures.com.
Okay. So you're just a super busy lady. How do you, I mean, I know your kids are like, well, yeah, my mom does this and this. And so what do you do in your free time then?
Well, now in my free time, I just sew and garden. That's pretty much it. It's so funny. I just like to keep busy. Mm-hmm. I don't like to be idle. I kind of get bored easily. I like to be entertained. I like my mind to be engaged, but more so, I like my fingers to be working. So in my garden, I have 6, 7, 8. I have 9 raised 3x3 beds in my backyard. Nice. And it's awesome. So we do early peas and lettuces and leafy greens and herbs in the early spring, which in New Jersey is about, you can put those in probably beginning of April, late March, because they're very frost hardy. And then come the summer, once we can get stuff in, which is usually around Memorial Day, we do everything from tomatoes to zucchini to cucumbers to, pretty much anything that we can grow, I just do. And then, I once people know, how to sew as well, you're in trouble, because they drop things off on your doorstep. They're like, Lynn, do you think you could, my zipper needs replacing or this or that. It's pretty funny. So, but as far as what I occupy my time with now, it's really mostly the garden sleeves and the gloves, because, being in a business, and especially a woman-owned business with 3 kids, it is really a tremendous amount of work, but it's a lot of fun. And I do manufacture all the gloves myself in my house right now. So I have 5 sewing machines. I have 2 threaded white, 2 threaded black, and a backup that I take with me on the road. So and my kids will tell you, I am sewing 24/7, like all the time.
Now, are these the machines that do it itself, or you're doing it on?
Oh no, I do it also. I have two sergers so I can do the seams to
Mhm.
keep them nice and, from fraying, I can keep them nice and straight. And then I have two regular sewing machines. I use Baby Lock, which I absolutely love that brand. It's amazing. It has automatic thread cutter also, so it saves me a step. And then the gloves, I actually get the actual glove part, which is the hand, I get from a company down in North Carolina, and they're wonderful to work with, Carolina Glove Company. And I attach my sleeves to the gloves, and it's really pretty amazing.
So, what do you see coming up for you? I mean, are you going to go on Shark Tank or something with your gloves? Are you
Gosh,
looking
I
to
really
do
want.
that?
I
Huh?
really want to. We'll see. Honestly, we'll see. I'm at a crossroads right now with my business because I understand and I acknowledge that it's really unsustainable for me to sew all the gloves myself, especially with the success I'm having with them. So I either have to hire some people so we can just start churning them out, which I would like to do because I really would like to keep the manufacturing in the US because that's kind of important to me. Or I have to find a manufacturing company, say down in North Carolina or in Texas, that can make the gloves for me. Or I keep it a mom and pa or a ma and ma
Yeah.
kind of company, and just keep doing the flower and garden shows up and down the East Coast and sell on Amazon and all that. So, it really is kind of a crossroads. Like I said, I have to decide sort of where the company is going to go. I would like it to get really big because I really do see these gloves in Home Depot, in Lowe's. I mean, the benefits of having a sleeve on your glove is huge, especially because they're fully machine washable. So the sleeve itself is 100% cotton, very lightweight and breathable. It's got an elastic band over the bicep, which is very comfortable, and it doesn't slip down. The glove is a nitrile dipped water resistant glove, so you can dig in soil. If you happen to come across a poison ivy plant, the urushiol doesn't soak through, unlike cotton gloves. And then the whole thing can just go right in the wash. So it's just, I've gotten letters from gardeners in Illinois and California, down in Texas, that have thanked me. In fact, I just got one. It's up on my bulletin board now. I just got one from someone in Chicago who said, thank you so very much for the Nobi gloves. I love them because they were called Nobis before, but for my garden
Yeah.
sleeves. I use them in my vegetable garden. It saved me from getting all prickly when picking and thinning my cucumbers, et cetera, et cetera. So it really is kind of a no-brainer. And I do see them in so many big stores. And that probably would be a licensing agreement. And I would, let somebody else manufacture them for me because that would be the way to go.
And see, that's the thing about, go back to sending it to whoever in the view. You have to be, if you take that step, you have to be able to sustain it.
Yes.
And I think that's the one thing we don't all think about. It's like, well, you have these contacts, you should do it. Well, no, because once you open it, you're opening a can of worms that, are you going to be able to fulfill those orders? And if you
Right.
don't fulfill those orders, then you're in a whole heck of a lot of trouble.
Right. Well, that's why when you go on Shark Tank, they say, I can't remember which shark says this, but one of the sharks is really very strongly opinionated about taking baby steps. You have to be able to, you have to take those first couple baby steps, increase your production. And I spoke to some friends who actually do manufacturing. They're out in California. And he said, where you are right now, the best thing probably to do is bring 3 or 4 people in and meet the needs when you get the orders. Because right now I can meet all my consumer orders, but as I start wholesaling and the wholesaling gets bigger, I'm definitely going to need to bring a couple more people in. So that's sort of what I'm leaning toward. Probably renting some space, getting a couple more machines, cranking Neil Diamond up really loud and hanging out, sewing all day. But I have actually a really funny patent story. So I have these patented, and I was actually in the hair salon talking to my hairstylist about the gloves because she and I always share gardening stories.
Mm-hmm.
We are big, both of us are big gardeners. And I had my hair all up in foils because, I'm 51 and yeah, okay, I'm going gray, I'll admit. So, I get
I
my hair
understand.
foiled. So I was sitting there, my hair is all in foils, and I'm talking about the gloves and the concept and everything. And Terry asked me, do you want to patent those? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of fun for now. And then the woman sitting next to me, whose hair was also in foils, said, excuse me, I don't mean to eavesdrop, but you need to patent that idea. And I looked at her and I was like, why do you say that? And she said, because I think it's a great idea. And you need to protect your idea, your investment. And by the way, and she held up her arms, they were covered in poison ivy. She said, I'm going to be your first customer. So I think her name was Diane. She was really amazing. And so I did. I took her advice. And one of my friend's husbands happened to be a trademark attorney. And I trademarked the name Nombi, which is my company, Nombi Glove Company. I'm in the process of trademarking Garden Sleeves, which is what I changed the name of my product to. And then a woman in his office was a patent attorney, and she actually patented the gloves for me. So I have a patent for gardening and for industrial.
Nice.
Yes,
Nice.
which was awesome. So I highly recommend patenting. It's not a cheap endeavor. That's why, initially I was not too keen on the idea. It was very expensive, but it's ultimately, in the long run, you really have to protect your intellectual property.
Well, that's a lot of things. A lot of authors, indie authors, don't think about the copyright aspect. They're like, oh, well, I put it in print. It's okay. Sure. You kind of hold a copyright because you put it in print. But if you take it to court,
right.
And with writing, when you see these sites, they're like, oh, free download of a book. 10 to 1, there's a couple of things about that. Number one, the author did not give you the book. Number two, they're fishing for your information, and you most likely won't even get your book. My favorite story about that is I have a book that I've been working on, and I put it up on Goodreads, and they stole the mock-up of the cover because it wasn't really the cover, and took a review from one of my other books and put that on a site saying that it was available for download. I'm like, that's pretty amazing considering I haven't finished writing it.
Oh my goodness.
And my husband said to me at the time, he was still with us, he's like, yeah, well, I guess you've arrived. Somebody's trying to pirate your stuff, so you must have arrived now.
Yes.
I would rather arrive differently than that, but okay. But I mean, it's protecting yourself, intellectual property, patent, whatever, whether it's a patent, a copyright, you need to protect yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you what pushed me. I would have been, let's just say, I was kind of content to just go to the garden shows and sort of let the glove thing just kind of, chill for a couple of years. And then, I haven't told a lot of people about this, but what the heck, I'm on a, huge podcast with an amazing woman, so I might as well share this. So I had COVID at the beginning of February of this past year. And then at the end of March 31st, I actually had a heart attack. And out of the clear blue, I have no blockages. They had no reason to suspect anything other than it was a COVID thing. So I think having survived through that, it was a funky, weird, kind of surreal experience. I was sitting on the floor of my family room sewing, and all of a sudden my arms just started feeling really heavy. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm just got a pinched nerve in my back or something. I'll go upstairs to my computer. So I came up here to my computer, and all of a sudden I felt like I sort of had swallowed a pill the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And then, so I went downstairs, I laid down on the couch, and I don't want to be an alarmist. I'm like, something's a little weird. And then my son came home. My husband and my little guy were in Florida on vacation. And my son came home. He's actually an EMT now. And I sat with him at the kitchen table, and all of a sudden the room started spinning. And I said, Zach, you got to get me to the couch. I'm going to pass out. So I think all three, because women, when a woman has a heart attack, it affects them very differently. Men grab their chests, they have the feeling down the arm, and it's sort of cookie cut. But for women, you can have pain in your jaw, you can have pain in your back. It's very different. So, he said, I want to take you to the hospital. And I said, no, just get me a bear. I'm fine. Like, we're going to find some bear ass, but I'll be okay. Yeah. And he's like, no, really, Mom, I want to take you to the hospital. So he did. And sure enough, they found out that I had a heart attack. So I recovered from that, and I sort of looked at my life and realized that as we're driving down the street and I'm looking at all the beautiful flowers and the leaves and everything, and I said to my husband, life can be over in literally a split second, in the blink of an eye. So carpe diem. You've
Hmm.
gotta, if you have something that you want to do, just go for it, because you don't know when it's going to be taken away shockingly.
Yeah.
So that's when I said, that's it. I'm going to hire a publicist, and I'm going to, try to get my gloves big, because I want to share these with everybody. And who knows? I mean, who knows how long any of us are going to be around?
This is
So,
true.
not to do doggy downer, but
No, it's true. I mean, the irony here is I had gotten an email a little bit ago about signs of women having heart attacks. So
oh,
it's amusing. I mean, just like 10, 15
oh
minutes
my
before we
God.
started this. So it's rather amusing that you bring this up. No, I get what you're saying, because I lost my husband in front of me,
Oh,
but he was sick for a long time, and I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, but
yeah.
it's one of those things where, yeah, you have to look at your life. And for me, it's one of those moments like, okay, so you've lost him. Now you have to reinvent yourself. Now you have to look at what you want to do and what you want to strive to do.
Yeah.
And you just have to focus. And my friends for years have been telling me to do a podcast. I'm like, yeah. So yeah, here I am. So, you finally, you have to own what you do. And if people are telling you your gloves are going to be big, and you finally see that and feel it because of what happened, there was a reason it happened, just like you meeting your husband.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I think the heart attack was a wake up call for me, that I need to do something, not just kind of, I've always been busy, but to actually make something, to try, at least to give it my all,
Yeah.
and to see how big I can get this, but not stress out about it, because, we were talking about anxiety and stress and everything. You know, this is the least stressed I've been in my whole life.
Wow.
And it's because I think it's something that I'm doing that's so close to my heart, that's all about me. I don't have hard hit times, and I don't have people telling me, I made a mistake or this or that. It's all me. And I'm just putting my heart and soul into it, but I believe in it so much. The garden sleeves are just so great and so helpful and so useful. And I feel like I've also found such a nice community with the garden community here in New Jersey and around the country, because gardeners love to share. They
Yeah.
love to share horror stories. They love to share success
Yeah.
stories. They love to share, they'll show me scars on their arms from their bout with poison ivy 3 years ago, or they'll tell me about, the squash bugs and the cucumber beetles. And now here in New Jersey, we have the dreaded spotted lanternfly, which is an invasive species that's just absolutely, oh my God. They're
Yeah.
they're all over New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So that's been, it's just something that we all kind of share. And I absolutely love the community, and I love going to the shows and talking to gardeners, because
Hmm.
I feel like it's sort of like my TV family.
Yeah.
Now the gardeners are my family. And it's, I've just really, it's just been wonderful for me.
My Once my husband and I moved into our other house, we started gardening. We had the perfect backyard. We had a creek behind our house, so there was this natural water source. Even the groundwater kept the plants watered. Even,
Oh, wow.
I mean, we still had to water occasionally, but it
Uh-huh.
wasn't like if we missed a day, it wasn't going to die because
Right.
we had the source. And we had this massive garden. We actually had we had cucumbers in the garden, and we had a watermelon plants in our garden, and
Nice.
somehow the cucumber and the watermelon cross pollinated.
No.
Yes, and we ended up, I have a picture somewhere of it, of with this watermelon that was kind of like the color of a honeydew, but not really, more of a white cucumber, but a little bit
Okay.
green, and it
Oh.
had no taste to it. It was the weirdest thing in the world. And we're like, how did that happen? But I mean, that's one thing my husband loved to do. He loved to garden. And 2 years before he died, we got these big giant pony troughs, the ones you water horses with and
Oh,
cows.
yeah.
and he raised them up. We had the normal raised beds, but he raised them up on bricks and put them in, and we had somebody fill it with dirt and rock, and he put jalapeno plants in there, and he could never get
Wow.
onions to grow. Never. He always had a hard time getting onions to grow. Last year after he passed, they grew. But I
Oh,
mean, we had 3 jalapeno plants, and I was giving away jalapenos. I mean, this was he knew how to mix that soil, so with the
oh,
compost and everything, just perfect. It was really a natural calling for him. And this year, I didn't really plant a lot. In fact, I still have plants I have to plant. It's just like it was
yeah,
something we did. So I like
yeah.
gardening, and I love all my flowers I have, because that's one thing I will say. I do some annuals in buckets, but I
Okay.
love my perennials because
Because it's no
there.
work.
That's right. And as you get older, your body starts to hurt more, and you're like, well, I can't do that this time.
Don't I know it?
Yeah.
Don't I know it? I know. And it's funny because they asked me at my son's school, my little guy, Justin, is going into 6th grade. And it was mostly virtual this year in New Jersey. They did let the kids go back in pods a couple days a week. And finally, by the last month, they were in 5 days, only half days. And then they did afternoon virtual. But the PTA, or rather the PTO, the parent teacher organization, was not able to do really any fundraisers for the year. So of course, the whole town knows me as, my
Hmm.
garden sleeves lady. So
Talk to the garden slaves
talk to
lady.
the garden sleeves lady. So I got an email from my friend Donna, and she said, Lynn, and she copied the co-presidents of the PTO on it. And she said, we thought of you, and we need we need someone to run this plant sale. It's a virtual, it's a plant
Hmm.
sale. It was online. And do you think you can do it? And I said, sure. So, because everybody knows me as, the
Yeah.
plant, flower, and vegetable and glove lady. So I did actually run it. And this year I added vegetables in because that's what I do. I mean,
Yeah.
flowers, I don't know a begonia from a petunia to a geranium. I have no idea what they look like. But, give me a tomato plant. I can tell you the difference between a Better Boy and
Yeah.
a Sweet 100 and a cherry. So bottom line is I bought all my vegetable plants from the PTO this year,
Hmm.
and my tomatoes went nuts. They
Really.
we had such an incredible tomato crop that my family was crying over the amount of
Wow.
tomatoes we had to eat. Gazpacho, tomato
Yeah.
soup, salsa. I mean, so much of it. My neighbors were sick of tomatoes. We were sick of tomatoes.
Well, it's like the jalapenos. It was like, here you go. My husband, the first year we did that, he made candied jalapenos,
Oh
which
my.
everybody loved because it's a sweet and a spice.
Okay.
But yeah, he was the guy. I mean, we had a friend because he was on dialysis, and she's still my friend. She would call him and she's like, okay, John, I'm going to put my garden together. How do I do this? What do I need to
Aw.
do? I mean, he could tell you what kind of soil and everything else that you would need. But if you haven't tried the tomato, I will say a chocolate cherry tomato or the chocolate kuma tomatoes, those are really good because they have a
Okay.
sweetness to it. It's not just like the sweet
Ah.
100. It's got a chocolate taste to it. We have a produce market, or had a produce market, that used to clearance out anything that didn't look 100% perfect.
Okay.
And so for like $2, I bought this trough of chocolate tomatoes. And then I made a chocolate tomato spaghetti sauce.
Oh, cool.
And it was great. I would love to do it again. But the chocolate tomatoes are a little bit more expensive when you find them at the
Okay.
store. And I haven't really found a plant, but I highly recommend it. Buy a tomato. I think they're Kuma, Kumo tomatoes,
Okay. Oh, wow.
and
Thank you
then
for that.
slice it in there and take a couple seeds and try growing them. I mean, couldn't hurt.
That is so good. So I have just a very funny pepper story. So my mom also, I grew up in Albany, New York, and we have a lot of shade in our yard, and the growing season is very short because Albany is very cold. It's like Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo. It's very cold. We get lake effect snow. And
Yeah.
so anyway, my mom was so excited that she grew peppers this year, and she had them on her deck, and the deer didn't get to them, and the chipmunks and the squirrels. So she sliced them up. They were red and beautiful, sliced them up, and she threw them in her salad and my dad's salad. She took a giant bite, and they were mismarked. They were red, hot,
Oh.
spicy. Oh, she said her eyeballs started to water and almost popped out of her head. She ran to the sink, spit it out, and said, Richard, put that down. It was so funny. So I was rolling.
Oh, I
So
imagine.
yeah, so she was looking for neighbors to give her red hot spicy
Of course,
Yeah,
of
pepper
course.
stew. But that was hilarious. So, Mom, if you're listening, now everybody knows your pepper story.
One story I love to tell is about when we moved into the other house. I asked John, I said, so what's your favorite flower? And he's like, I love sunflowers. And the growing
Yeah.
season had already started. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to plant them. However, you don't think about these things. First time homeowner, got my bird feeder out. I'm not thinking about any of this. We live not too far from a wooded area. We have a creek behind our house. Next thing I know, all these little things are coming up all over the yard. I'm like, what is this? What is this? I don't chipmunk took seeds and planted them all over. So eventually we just
Oh
had
my
this huge
gosh.
sunflower garden. I just looked up and said, well, you got what you wanted. And I mean, what's funny is last year after he passed, somehow we got one sunflower plant planted in the pony trough next to the jalapenos.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, that's a gift from him. And even this year, I still had sunflowers. And we have a stray cat in the neighborhood. So I don't have my bird feeders out anymore because the cat will kill the birds. And none of my neighbors around here have it. So I'm like, I don't know where they're coming from, but whatever. It's a gift. The
I
sunflower
agree.
will always be him. So yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just get signs,
Yeah.
like like my heart
Yeah.
issues, like, the sunflower. It's just sometimes you get signs that you
Yeah.
just need to do something, or, I just feel like you have to live your life with passion, because
Yeah.
as long as you're passionate about something, life is just so much more fun and
Yes.
so much more upbeat, and you have the energy to go on and to continue.
Yeah.
And, I think passion is just key. You find something that you're passionate about in life, and like you did with the podcast and everything, it's like, even if it changes 10 times, just find something you're passionate about and just, go with it.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the podcast, since I first started, I've only been doing this for about 4 months now, maybe 5.
Yeah.
And it's grown and it's amazing. I get to meet people that I would never have thought about talking to. I mean, I sat down to talk to a neuroscientist and it's like, really? You want to be on my show? Okay. So, I
That
mean,
is excellent.
I look at, I have a guest that I'm interviewing sometime in September. I mean, he was a bodyguard for the Prime Minister of Australia.
Wow.
And he's got a heck of a tale to tell, but it's just like, when somebody wants you to tell you your story, that's the amazing thing about this is I get to hear so many different stories and meet amazing
Absolutely.
people from all over the world. So, yeah. So besides mygardensleeves.com,
Yes.
what else, if you had anything to tell anybody, what would you tell them?
I would probably just tell them, follow your dreams. I know it sounds cliche, but you really don't be afraid. Fear is paralyzing. There's Jeff Wheeler is an author that I just absolutely love, and he has so many amazing quotes. I like fantasy, and I read a lot of fantasy novels. And he has these quotes at the beginning of a lot of his chapters. And one of them is a quote about fear that one of his characters, Murden, writes. And I don't know it's a long quote, but I'll give you the gist of it. It says, fear is the greatest of all human evils, because we fear what we know. We fear what we don't know. We fear success. We fear failure. Sometimes, but death is the release, because we're finally not afraid anymore. So I like to say, just don't live your life with fear. Try to just go out on a limb and believe that it's going to work. And if it doesn't, it's okay. It was the right decision that you made at the time, because no decision is the wrong decision. It was the right decision at the time. So I don't regret really anything that I did, because I've had so many different paths in my life take me to so many fun places, like the TV career, to being a mom, which is one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had, to being an author, which was amazing because I could share that with kids, and I just love kids, and then to gardening, and then to inventing my garden sleeves. And then, I didn't even get into the Irish dancing. My kids did competitive Irish dancing for years, and that's actually how I learned how to sew, because the the head of the school, the Lynn Academy of Irish Dance here in Hillsborough, New Jersey, said, we need an alterationist who sews. And I didn't sew. So I raised my hands. I said, I can, I think.
Here we go again.
Because I wanted my daughter to have a dress. She didn't have a dress. She was tiny, and all the dresses were, massive, and she needed a dress. So I raised my hands. I said, I can do it. Exactly. Fake it till you make it. So I pulled apart my first Irish dance dress and shrunk it and made it fit my daughter. And from that point on, I was the alterationist for about 4 years in her studio. And that actually taught me how to sew. So, don't be afraid. Jump in with both, head first with both arms and legs, and just dive in. And it was the right decision at the time, and no regrets.
And I will say, because listening to that story, you realize, and that's one thing I try to do too, is you look at an event in your life from the past and you go, okay, what lesson did I learn that actually has helped me now in my life? Yes. And that sewing story is very much part of that. And even your presentation, being able to talk easily to me, well, that's a gift of gab. It also is because of your background. You're used to how the media works. You're used to how camera angles work. You understand that. So that is a gift. And a lot of people don't,
Right. Well, I was also going to say that being a visiting author too. So I have to present in front of teachers, in front of students, and have a very, comfortable, fluid conversation with them. And all of that has enabled me. I mean, I was, like I said, with the anxiety when I was growing up, I was afraid of being in front of people. I was afraid of talking to people and having someone say, oh, your hair's too curly, you're too skinny, you're too tall, you're too this, you're too that, so it's yes, every experience in my life has kind of led to this moment. And I really do thank the Irish dancing for teaching me really how to sew, because I bought myself the baby lock machine and I just plowed ahead. I broke about 24 needles on those really stiff Irish dance dresses. I had to switch to jeans needles because, the dresses are very stiff on the bottom because the arms have to go behind the pleats. Yeah. And, I did it. And now I can sew my garden sleeves, which is amazing.
And that's the one thing I want to add on to that for a second is my husband was legally blind. And at a certain point, he decided he still wanted to sew. He knew how to sew before. He used to do car interior and stuff for his own stuff, for his own cars. And he decided he wanted to make little bags, little tarot drawstring bags for cards, decks of cards and whatnot. And he would. We had this little space, and even though he was legally blind, I got him a machine that was a self-threader. I still had to thread it, but I'm not complaining. But he would still do it even though he was legally blind, and people look at his work and they're like, wow, he did that. And I'm like, yeah, I would cord him for him, but like this, I mean, he made that.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
And it's velvet lined on the inside. I have some still, and I don't know that I'm going to sell them, but I mean, when I look at somebody who's legally blind, so if you think you can't do anything, granted there's some phrase because of the material, but I mean,
it's so pretty.
So if you think you can't do something because you may have a problem with it, he was, like I said, he couldn't see out of his left eye at all. So he's working with one good eye, and it was frustrating for him, but he still did it. And he was proud when he would come in my little space and go, look, here you go. Some bags for you to cord.
I think he and I would have had a lot in common between the gardening and the sewing.
That's why I was sitting here. I'm like, I'm sharing these stories because, you do seem a lot like you would have had a lot in common. So,
wow. It was amazing this morning. So my little guy just came back from summer camp. He was in his first sleepaway camp experience for 4 weeks, and he took a sewing class there.
Really?
And this morning, because now it's the calm after the storm. There's not a lot to do now because mom's working and the older two are working and dad's working. So Justin had me thread a needle for him, and he took some of my scrap fabric, and he made me a pincushion.
Nice.
So it's downstairs. I should have brought it up, but it's downstairs. And he was so proud of himself. He made this beautiful quilted pillow at camp. He made
Nice.
this little pincushion this morning. So I said, either, buddy, you're going to be a great sewer, or you're going to be a surgeon one day. It's good for you.
You might have your first employee.
There you go. I keep telling my kids that. I'm like, we've got a whole family business here.
I mean, or he can work in, costume design if he goes into the entertainment industry.
Yes. Actually, he is the one out of all my kids. He's the one who is really the most interested in my business. So he threads the elastic when I have a whole pile and I'm sort of a little overwhelmed and on a deadline. Not really a deadline, but if I have a couple orders, and I need to get them out, he is the first one to grab that safety pin, put it on the elastic and start threading it through. I'm going to teach him how to serge. My daughter actually, to her credit, she's your typical teenage girl. So you ask her to do something and immediately she's like, oh, Mom.
Yeah.
Immediately. Or gosh, Mom, you're so embarrassing, if I happen to walk in front of her doing a TikTok.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic started, I actually I sort of flipped my business because, I said if it had been a poison ivy and pandemic, I would have been set. Like the whole world would have been set because I had a basement full of great gloves in the basement. But I sort of switched to mask making, and it was a whole family project. So I made masks for Montefiore Hospital in New York, and for a lot of the local hospitals. And my daughter, God bless her, was like, how can I help you? And I taught her the serger. So she was serging the edges. We all stood there and, sat around the dining room table and threaded the wire through the nose pieces. And so, sewing has really, I don't want to say it defined our family, but definitely has become a big part of our family. Not just because of that, but also because I don't have a sewing room. So I am completely in the family room. So you walk into my family room and I have bags and boxes and stacks of everything. So, sewing has really become a central part of my family life.
So it's a family-owned business.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of.
All right. So people can find you at mygardenslaves.com.
Yes.
And the books they can find at remotecontrol.com. Remote Control
Adventures.
That's what it was.
Yes.
All right. So I thank you very much for this interview. It's been a blast.
Oh my gosh, Donna, it's been so much fun meeting you and talking with you. And you're so comfortable and so easy to talk to. And, the podcast that I've listened to that you've done, you have such an easy manner about you. So thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been such a pleasant experience. Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the Better 2 podcast. Your listenership is greatly appreciated. If you like what you hear, remember to hit subscribe. We also have our videos on YouTube. They're usually posted the same day as the podcast, and you should check it out. If you have a question or you would like to be a guest on the show, please drop me an email, and I'll be glad to talk to you about it. The email is Donna, Dauna, at thebetter2podcast.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and catch you next time.